Alright guys, welcome to another series of videos by Geeked on managerial accounting. Today I'm going to be talking about chapter number 6, which is process costing. Process costing is completely different to what we have done in job order costing because it deals with assembly line products that are standardized and have the same features. So we have like products coming off an assembly line. And what we know about assembly line products is they are all similar. So they are similar in features and as well as their costs that are like essentially your direct material, your direct labor, and your manufacturing overhead. All of these are the same. So since it is an entirely different approach that we're going to follow, we create a production report. Now, when it comes to a production report, there are really two types of reports. One follows the weighted average method, and the other follows the FIFO method. In this video, I'm going to be covering the weighted average method because I feel that many schools do not even consider FIFO in their syllabus. But if you do need help with that, you can always email us at inquiries@geeked@gmail.com. Do not worry about that. I'm going to write the email at the end of the video, so don't worry about that part of it just now. All right, because I want to get started with the question as soon as possible so you guys know how to deal with that sort of scenario. All right, so here in front of me I have a question that I've made up and one that has too many typos. Anyway, so Abe's Textiles operates in the textile industry. It has the following information for the year 2016. So you have all this information available to you, but it's not going to make any sense unless I show you what a production report looks like and what it is. Alright, so in front of you, you have a production report following the weighted average format. So you have physical, direct materials, conversion costs, and total. Do not be thrown off by this term. What it really means is this. So you have DM, which you have a column for separately over here. But what is conversion cost? So conversion cost is direct labor plus your manufacturing overhead added together. That, my friends, is your conversion cost. So again, don't let this term throw you off. It's just the same thing that you studied in the previous chapter. All right, so we're going to start off with units to account for. So at the start of the year, you have a certain number of units. You have beginning, work in process that you got from your previous year, and you have units that you start during that year. So you should end the year with a total units that you want to account for, because the number of units that you start should be the number of units that you like complete and sell to your customers. So you have a beginning inventory and then you start some number of units and then you complete those units and then you have an ending inventory. So in both cases your ending units should be the same. So your total units to account for and your total units accounted for should be the same figure. Remember that, guys. So with that being said, let's start the question. So I'm going to start plugging the values in. Units to account for has the first entry, which is a beginning work in process. Remember this area, since it is units to account for and accounted for, it has to be in units. Like the figures are going to be in units. Physical means physical units, and you're going to put it in this column right here. So beginning work in process is units in process of 400. So 400 units started during the year. Again, also I want to mention that you don't care about the stage of completion in the weighted average format. This should be left alone for the FIFO method. So when you see these percentages for the work in process at the beginning, just ignore it. Don't even give it a second thought because it's not relevant to this format. All right, so units started into production during the month is 1100. So when I add these two up together, that gives me 1500 total units to account for. So this figure is the same as this figure. Remember that. So units completed and so for units accounted for, we start off with units completed and transferred out, which is 1400. 1400. But in this question specifically, I haven't given the ending inventory. See, it's question mark. So in order to do that, what would I do? I'm simply going to take the 1500 from here, plug it here since they have to be the same. Then I work backwards. So when I add, what should I add here for it to be 1500? Just 100, right? So there's your answer. It's pretty straightforward. So if the question tries to throw you off in that sense, always remember that you have to work back and forth with the numbers since you know you have the knowledge that these two figures have to be the same. All right, so moving on to equivalent units. Now, what equivalent units are is that when you end the year in ending inventory, there's going to be some amount of work in process. Some amount of the units are not going to be completed. So you don't want to use those units in your calculation for the cost rate that you find here. And I'm going to explain what that means, but just for the time being, you don't want to include your work in process units into your final calculation. So in order to find your equivalent units, you do use these percentages: work in process, ending. Remember, opening is not relevant to weighted average, but ending percentages for stage of completion are. So units in process, we just found 100. So we're going to use 70 and 80% in order to find the number of equivalent units. When it comes to units completed and transferred out, we're not going to be using the percentages. Those are only for ending inventory, because units that you have completed, what that really means is that it's not work in process anymore, right? So if you have 1400 units, that means that it's 1400 complete for direct materials as well as conversion costs. You just copy the figure over here because that means it's been completed totally. When it comes to the ending inventory, you have to convert it into these percentages because, again, 30%, what this means is that 70% of the product is only complete. 30% is not complete. So you only want to include the part that is complete. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is just so important, guys. All right. So 70% is 70 and 80% is 80. There you go. Now we're just going to add these two up together to find what the equivalent units are. So I'm going to do the same here. Just going to drag. So that is your equivalent units. All right, where are we going to use this? You're going to find out in just a bit. Okay, so beginning, work in process. On to the next one. So now we're into the cost section. We're not going to be using this column anymore because this is physical units. We're going to start off right here. So beginning work in process is going to be given to me. It's going to be right about here. Cost in the beginning inventory, 170. Materials, so I'm going to write that down. Remember, guys, this is in dollars. This area was in units. And now we're working with dollars. So just a reminder. Actually, I'll just put it up here so nobody gets confused. Yep. Okay, 170 and labor cost and overhead added together are conversion costs. So 300 plus 160. So, oh, shit. Just a moment. 170 equals to 300 plus 160. There you go. 460. All right, units started into production during, okay, so no. All right, so costs incurred during the year. We're only looking at costs at this moment. So costs added to production during month. Materials cost 1300. There we go. And then 800 and 1700 are your conversion costs. All right, total cost to account for, just add them up together. Okay, there you go. Just a word of caution, guys. This 1470 here and the 1470 here are just a coincidence. They're not really like, so don't be looking out for these numbers to be the same because they're not supposed to be. It's just the case in this question. All right, so cost per equivalent unit, that's what we're looking for. So cost per equivalent unit is where you're trying to find a rate to come up with a figure for your cost of units completed and transferred out. You don't have these numbers available to you, so that is why you come up with a rate where you divide your total cost to account for by your equivalent unit. Just remember this format, guys. It's just vital and you have to know it. So in order to find your cost per equivalent unit, all you do is this divided by, this, and then it comes out to 1 in this case and 2 for the next one. All right, perfect. So we're now moving on to the last bit of the production report, which is costs accounted for. So cost of units completed and transferred out. How are we going to find that? We're just simply going to take these. I want to use a different color. We're going to take the cost per equivalent unit and going to multiply by the number of units that we found here. All right, so this is what we're going to do. Equals to this times your units that you found here. And then again, the same thing over here. There you go. And you're going to do the same thing again for ending work in process. So you're going to take your rate, multiply it by this. You're going to take your rate and going to multiply it by your ending WIP. And then we should add them up and get the perfect answer. Oh, wait. Plus this 1470 and 2960. All right, guys. Notice the sign that you know that you have passed with flying colors is that these answers have to be the same. So in this case, they are this answer and this answer has to be the same because total cost to account for and total cost to account for have to be the same. Total units to account for and total units accounted for have to be the same, right guys? So in this case even, they were the same because we made it that way. But just to be safe, you want to confirm your answer with the total cost to account for and the total cost accounted for. Really, in this kind of scenario, in this kind of question, you already know that you killed the question. All right, guys, because your answer is the same. So there I showed you how to complete a question for weighted average, like the production report for process costing. If you want to know more about the FIFO method, if you have to do that for your course or for your program, you can always email us at inquiries@geeked@gmail.com. Have a great week, guys, and we hope that you stay tuned for more great videos.